Welcome to my Global Music Match live set. Wasn't really sure what to do, but I guess picked a few songs that I'll sing. And the first one that I'm going to do, I wrote with Jim Dory a few years back. And big thanks to Charmy Finches for recording this song a couple of weeks ago. They did a beautiful job. And it's pretty powerful to hear someone sing one of your songs. And yeah, it was a great feeling. Anyway, here's I don't even know if I should be singing it now after hearing them, but here's the original version. They walked everywhere they went and sailed on the wind. It wasn't even that long ago. Some still remember when you could drink the rivers and eat from any shore. But the tides come and go, they don't do that no more. And there were dance halls all around. There was one on Green Hill where the good old boys and folks from town and all the women dressed to kill. Many met their sweethearts wrote letters back and forth. Now that's all been changed. They don't do that no more. They don't do that no more. They don't do that no more. They don't write letters back and forth. They don't do that no more. And every family had a garden somewhere in the yard. Comforting to know you'd always eat when times got hard. And homemade bread was common, so was being poor. Now there's credit cards in big box stores. They don't do that no more. They don't do that no more. They don't do that no more. They spend more than they can afford. They don't do that no more. Camp there with their kids. They'd play in the water. The landing had a fishing fleet. She was good as any other. They'd swim out to Pine Island and boil fresh dug clams on shore. But then the big mill started going. They don't do that no more. They don't do that no more. They don't do that no more. There's poison on the harbor floor. They don't do that no more. They don't do that no more. They don't do that no more. Well, thanks a bunch. That song was inspired by a cause here in my hometown in Pictou County. Certainly myself and my brother and quite a large group of people in the community spent a lot of time on it, close to a decade, and some people longer. Some people it was closer to 50 years. But things are getting cleaned up now, so it's turned out to be a fairly good news story. And if you want to know more about it, just visit the Friends of the Friends of the Northumberland Strait. Friends of the Northumberland Strait, yeah. I'm nervous. It's like I feel like I'm in front of a crowd. I don't know who's going to be watching this. You know, it's kind of freaky, all this online stuff. And but anyway, thanks if you're watching. And here's a song that I wrote with Mark Lang. Started it in Australia when I was with Mark, and then finished it when I landed back home after being away for a month. And it's called In the Time I Was Away. Faithful like a friend, dog-eared pages turning inward. Between the lines I was lost a while. Now I'm walking in the cold, and it's heavy on me now. Heavy water on me now. I thought of fiction and a romance, but nothing anymore outrageous than the truth. With the morning star appearing, I was missing you. Yeah, I was missing you. In the time I was away, in the time I was away. Autumn winds were following those newspaper men who kept spinning till they grounded. I was rich among the rags, I'd read the Daily Blue, and it always was the same. In the time I was away, in the time I was away, there was nothing that couldn't wait. In the time I was away. 40 days on this trip I had been on. That's 40 nights I had been gone. But somehow in a town where nothing changes, things got rearranged, with probably me to blame. Faithful like a friend, dog-eared pages turning inward. Between the lines I was lost a while. Now I'm walking in the cold for something out of reach, in the shape of you and me. What it is remains unnamed, and neither of us can explain. That's just what it became in the time I was away. All right. Well, here's a song I wrote with Sally Spring, and talking about the life of being a traveling folk singer, and how I guess we feel that we should be writing songs about environmental issues or social justice issues, and as so many of our heroes have done, well, currently and before us, and kind of keeping that folk tradition going. And then we sort of started making fun of ourselves because we're just folk singers, you know. And at the end of the day, oftentimes we find ourselves at folk festivals in front of an entire field full of hippies, you know. So we're basically preaching to the converted. So it's not like we'd be taking a big risk talking about the environment or social justice issues. But a friend, Bill Kelsey, heard us talk and heard the conversation. He started laughing and said he'd heard an old fellow one time say, you know, he was a rabbi. They asked him, why do you keep preaching every week at your services? If you haven't gotten to them by now, what makes you think you're going to? You know, best case for you is you're just preaching to the choir. And the rabbi answered, well, I suppose I am preaching to the choir, but it sure would be nice if they'd sing a little louder. So Sally and I thought, there's a song. So here you go. I think I'll use this thinner pick here. Try this, yeah. Try this out. It's nice, a little gentler. I am a soldier, but I never had a gun. I carry songs upon my shoulders, hoping we shall overcome. But on this road, I'm not the only one who's following the thunder of the drum. And I'm not rich, but I have more than I need. In the middle of this battlefield of money-driven greed, and the line's getting thinner now between right and wrong. You lift your voice, I'll beat the drum. Across the valleys and up through these hills, there's a feeling all over this land that if we stand and rise together, there is change within our power. I am preaching to the choir to sing it louder. I am preaching to the choir to sing it louder. Let's sing for the living upon the land and in the sea. Let's sing out for justice. Let's sing that we believe. As the world spins round and round, may we one by one all join hands and beat the drum. Across the valleys, up through these hills, there's a feeling all over this land that if we stand and rise together, there is change within our power. I am preaching to the choir to sing it louder. I am preaching to the choir to sing it louder. So raise your voices now, we can make this work. Through the eye of the storm, we shall be heard. There's an echo in the distance that's played before. More suffering and hardship, more cruelty and more. But before we stop and rest, we must pass it on. For the young to march and beat the drum. Across the valleys and up through these hills, there's a feeling all over this land. If we stand and rise together, there is change within our power. I am preaching to the choir to sing it louder. I am preaching to the choir to sing it louder. Sing it! I am preaching to the choir to sing it louder. I am preaching to the choir to sing it louder. Well, thanks if you were singing along there. Well, I was alone one night and reading a story about a celebration of the crop, and called this song "Celebrate the Crop," and it's a fun song. Yeah, and my brother-in-law heard it and he thought, man, you got to get that song out for Legalization Day in Canada, but I didn't have it ready on time. It's not necessarily about that, although it could be. And anyway, here it is, "Celebrate the Crop." They were the poorest of the poor, didn't even have a pot, didn't know any different, didn't give it a thought. Got married in June, had a bath in May. She carried pretty flowers and stayed in the shade. She carried pretty flowers and stayed in the shade. Far up on the roof, it's raining cats and dogs. Papa's in bed, he sleeps like a log. Filled up the tub, Mom and Daddy went first. And finally the baby, you could lose him in the dirt. And finally the baby, you could lose him in the dirt. Oh, the bacon's hanging up, everyone's coming over. Animals share all that we've got. Preachers, drinkers, smokers, poets, lovers, jokers, all gathered there to celebrate the crop. All gathered there to celebrate the crop. If you had a dirt floor, then you were dirt poor. You'd lay down the straw all the way to the door. The kettle was on, if the cook stove was hot, scrape it all together and throw it in the pot. Scrape it all together and throw it in the pot. Stomping up the dust when the fiddle rings, dancing in the darkness, pounding on the strings. Sneaking round the corner and loving clumsily, never having much but sharing everything. Never having much but sharing everything. Sometimes too much. They drank the whiskey down from a poison cup, passing out so hard and never waking up, sleeping in the cold. That's why I don't believe in hell. Someone's in the graveyard listening for the bell. Someone's in the graveyard listening for the bell. Oh, the bacon's hanging up, everyone's coming over, and we'll share all that we've got. Preachers, drinkers, smokers, poets, lovers, jokers, all gathered there to celebrate the crop. All gathered there to celebrate the crop. Stomping up the dust when the fiddle rings, dancing in the darkness, pounding on strings. Preachers, drinkers, smokers, poets, lovers, jokers, all gathered there to celebrate the crop. All gathered there to celebrate the crop. Well, if you're tuning in, thanks so much again. And I wrote this next song with Bruce Guthrow, a good friend of mine here from Nova Scotia. And Bruce is quite well known. He toured with a group called Run Rig. He was the lead singer there for maybe 20 years. And I think they've sort of wrapped up now as far as I know. But anyway, this story was circulating around in my family. My younger brother told me this story. My grandfather worked for the railroad, and back in the day, Pictou County was very much a coal mining area. So it was common to see mums and dads on their way home from work, or kids on their way home from school, walking the tracks, looking for coal that maybe come off the trains. And they'd go to the rail yards, and in the cold winter months, that coal helped them make it through. And I guess as the story goes, Grampy and a guy that he was working with, they were running the short line day in, day out, going by the same houses. And Pictou County was very much a small area. Everybody knew one another back then, and they knew that which families were struggling the most, I guess, in some of these little houses along the tracks. And I think it just sort of got Grampy in the heart one day. And as the story goes, he and a guy that he was working with, one day looked at one another without saying a word. They started shoveling coal off the train going by certain houses. And knowing my grandfather, he saw everything in black and white, that generation. He wouldn't have seen anything wrong with that. His take would have been, well, the railroad was never going to miss a shovel full of coal. And these families were starving and freezing in their homes. So right or wrong, that's how he saw it, just black and white. And anyway, thanks so much. I'll leave you with this song. And sing along from wherever you are. Strange times in the world these days. And I hope that you and yours are hanging in the best you can. Worked this job since I was 15. I'll the salt steel liner, running on steam, cutting through the woods to the mill stations and towns, through the wind and rain beating down. I got my share of problems that I won't share. That's just the way that it goes round here. There's food on our plates, clothes on our backs, and that's more than I can say for some folks along these tracks. Ooh, shoveling coal from this train. Ooh, shoveling coal from this train. Before the sun rises, I'm back in my boots, and I'm killing time with some old railway tune. It's been a long winter, it's been cold as hell. We'll stop for lunch when the clock strikes 12. And when the work gets tough, the money stays the same. Yet we hold on to things that haven't changed. For all the ones without a chance to give back, we do this job even though they never ask. Ooh, shoveling coal from this train. Ooh, shoveling coal from this train. Sometimes I get mean when I'm drinking. I'm not a man you wanna cross, but I won't see a child go hungry or face a winter frost. As we pass by these troubled shacks, we try to ease their pain. We dig the shovels way down deep, no need to explain. Ooh, shoveling coal from this train. Ooh, shoveling coal from this train. Well, I've been retired now for a year. I still hear that engine ringing in my ears, and the train still smokes, that whistle blows. I watch my TV and sit here by the stove. When I'm on my way to the liquor store, I run into folks taking money for the poor. I reach in my pocket and dig for change and hand it out, no need to explain. Help me shovel. Ooh, shoveling coal from this train. 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 Thanks so much again. We'll see you later.